Human races and migration. You can see here that Jesus has been just created Adam and Eve, and all the other animals are all mature. They're all big animals, and they are just in companion to this creation of man, and they are fully functional, mature animals. That's very important because man also was created fully functional. So this gives a straight answer to that question: what is first, the egg or the chick? Yeah, obviously the chicken. Yes. All right. Two verses. Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostril the breath of life, and man became a living being. And the second one is Genesis 2:21-22. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God has taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. This is not symbolic. It's not a story. It's very real. It's very genetic. Let me tell you that these two verses of the Bible have very profound genetic consequences, implications. It's telling that both humans, man and woman, started only on all humanity started only from two individuals. And Eve was a clone, a perfect clone from Adam. She had exactly the same DNA that Adam, because came from his rib. So it has to be the same DNA. Hence, the diversity in human beings is quite limited. Diversity, how we look, how humans are formed. God took Adam's DNA from his rib and make a woman. Just eliminates the Y chromosome and duplicate the X chromosome. And voila, we have an instant woman. You're with me? Yes? Okay. And does this genetic evidence coincides with Bible revelation? Absolutely. The majority of the genes in the chromosome comes in two versions. And these two versions are spread around the world. Okay? These two versions of genes, we can look around the world, and fantastic, it's only two. Could be four, could be more. So this does fit the evidence. Most variable places in the genome comes in two versions, and these two versions are spread across the world. Okay? Let me go back a little bit into Genesis 2:21, where it says he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. So the question is, do men have one rib less? Do we? What do you think? What men think? Touch your... No, we, males. No, of course not. We have all the... But Adam, what about Adam? Did Adam had one rib less? It's a good question. I give you the answer. The answer is no. Because ribs is the only bone in our body that regenerates. It's very interesting. The bone in the rib regenerates, but with one condition, and the one condition was put by God. You have to close up the flesh, and that it regenerates. If you don't, it will not. Say if you cut a rib and just leave no periosteum, the periosteum is the cover. That will not regenerate. But if you do stitch it up, it will regenerate. Okay? So Adam did recover his rib, and today surgeons use that kind of operation. They take the bone They close the periosteum, and they have a regenerated rib, and they can use the bone for other um, operations, surgery. Okay. So was Adam and Eve white and blue eyes and blondies? No, absolutely not. This was about the aspect of Adam and Eve because they had all the information, genetic information necessary to produce all the colors. So the sons were able to be a mix, a just a mix of their own genes. So they could be totally white, uh, more brown, or darker, or even fully dark. That was and their own sons. I mean, I don't mean many generations down. Their very sons could have all those mix. So, what's the problem, or what's the situation? Why there are different skin colors? Basically, skin is the same color for all humans. It's exactly the same as an organ. But, and that's why nobody is white, black, or yellow. The only difference of tone is due to the amount of melanin. And what's melanin is this product that granules that is produced by melanocyte, and it comes to put the color in your skin. So the more you have, the more brown you are. And there are two forms of melanin: eumelanin, which is brown to black, that's a color, or pheomelanin, which is red to yellow. And the proportion among them will be determine the skin tone. For instance, this woman, has got a mutation because she produced a lot of eumelanin, and the dark, sorry, this one does not produce eumelanin, which is the dark brown color to the skin, and she, however, produced a lot of pheomelanin, which gives her the reddish coloration she's got. So, since red today is not found across the world, there's a possibility that it is caused by a post-Babel mutation. It's a mutation. Human color, then, distribution in the world, you can see there, obviously, more black, it's where they more normally live, and the other colors are there. So the surprising new finding is that the darker and lighter colors found in different places are caused by the same genetic variants, meaning that they existed before people spread out of the earth, out of the Babel on the earth. So this is the meaning that everyone's got the same genetic information, and it was produced after the difference was produced after they spread around the world. Other variations due to isolation of populations could be the straight hair against the curly hair, or the thick lips to thin lips, or the shape of the eyelids. Also, this feature would have developed over or become more predominant in various isolated people groups over the generations. Now, the eye color is the same thing. The more melanin you have in your iris, the more dark is your eye, or half the way, or no melanin at all. So blue eyes is lack of melanin. Okay, it's like looking at the sky. Tell me, what color is the sky? Yeah, looks like blue. Okay, but that's an effect of light and the air. But the sky really is not blue; it's dark. It's black. But we can see a blue coloration because of an effect of light. It's the same thing in the eye of a blue-eyed person. It's just an effect. There's no blue melanin, put it that way. Or the hair color. Brown, sorry, black first, a lot of melanin, half the way, and lack of melanin, the blondies. And this guy who's got a reddish hair, he's a mutant. All right. What about the Asian kind of eye with a bulk here on the eyelid? It's just extra layer of fat that they got there in the eyelid, and that's why it falls a little bit. But that's all the difference, and that's in the DNA. Look here, this is a very special case. Black woman, she's got a black husband, and they got this baby, which is an albino baby. And as an albino baby, he's got fully, look like blonde hair, fully white. And it's just the absolute absence of melanin in his body. And one extra problem they have, they're almost blind. Not fully blind, but almost blind, because they can't produce the melanin at the bottom, at the end of the retina, and they cannot see properly because of that. So these little boys have a lot of trouble. Oh, I think I have it not here. No, they don't have it. But also, these little boys in Africa, they're very dangerous to have because people will tend to rob them, to take them out of the families and sell them because they are objects of luck. You follow me? Yeah, and they kill them, of course. It's not just they sell them as a whole, they sell them by parts. And there are reports of many dozens of kids being kidnapped in that place. Dr. Ben Carson, he wrote once that he has had surgery to many, probably thousands of black people. And doing that, he discovered that when he cuts the skin, which is, of course, more color, open, is exactly the same inside. There's no difference. Okay, here we got a very special case where parents, both parents, have Caucasian mothers and black father. But they brought these two girls, the twins, which are totally different colors. That's how they look today. It's Kian and Remy Hodgson from the UK. They're born 1 minute apart, and the appearance is really rare, 1 in a million. It's the combination of the parents' genes. Now, we used to think that humans were 99% similar to each other. But the structural differences that we have, I am big. I've always been big. Some others are more tiny. And those differences account for about 4.5% difference in DNA. It has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with other things. But that 4.5% is just because we're different size or different here or there. But the difference because of race, just by race, the difference that occurs in the DNA just because of race. Here we have an Asian, an Aborigine, an Indian, a black person, an African, Eskimo from Arctic, and an islander, and a Caucasian. And the difference among all of them is only 0.012%. So race is not an issue. It's not, but very similar DNA. In other words, all races, in terms only on race, have 99.9% same DNA. Acts 17:26, the Bible tells us, and hath made of one blood all nations of men, to dwell on all the face of the earth. Right? So we are all made of one blood. There is only one race, and that is the human race. Okay? So statements like biracial or race is simply racist, because they perpetuate the idea of an ignorant division of humans by superficial, meaningless traits. Race does not exist. So stop referring to people as belonging to one race or another, or two races. There's only one race, the human race. Also, I can show you, I want to show you what recombination is. This is a father and a son. They look very alike. The same as here, the same as here. There's a shuffle of genes when you procreate, and parents may look like sons or daughters, but not necessarily look alike, because there is a combination, but that combination is limited within humans. And those variations among them are already in the DNA. The canines, dogs, they have more chromosomes than we have. We have 46. They have 78. So they can recombine in a bigger way than we can. So that's why we have so many shapes and colors and types of dogs, because that is possible. Now, studies done between human and chimps, this is the latest one, show that chimps and men in the X chromosome are 69% similar, which is big, 31% difference. And 43% on the Y chromosome, which used to be 70, now it's 43, much smaller. And in the genome across the board is 70%. Remember I told you yesterday that we have similarities with bananas as well? Remember what was the percentage? 72%. So it's meaningless. If we are 72% similar to bananas, doesn't mean we are half bananas. And if we have 70% of similarities with monkeys, it's not at all that we are half monkeys. Right? So Mark 10:6 says, "But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female." And this is called, in evolution terms, a paradox. And why is it a paradox? It's so simple, male and female, such a natural thing. But it's a paradox, because evolution cannot explain this. There's no reason why, in evolution, of course, in evolution terms, that we should have males and females. Should be everyone hermaphrodite. Everyone just reproduce by itself, if reproduction would be natural. But there is a very good reason to be male and female, because each one provides information, different information, and you will not transmit to your offsprings any DNA deformation, which are mutations. So if two brothers, and that's the reason why brothers and sisters cannot marry, because if they procreate, the same mistakes will be copied across to the offspring, and that will perpetuate, and that will produce a lot of damage, or will be defective. So that's why male and female is a very good idea, and that happens in every single part of creation. Humans, of course, lions, penguins, squirrels, and doves, and trees, and also in plants. So all the kingdom that God created are male and female, with some exceptions. Okay? There are little exceptions here and there, mollusks and some other plants, but there are exceptions. The norm is this. And funny enough, there was an evolutionist called Maynard Smith that wrote this: "The widespread occurrence of sexual reproduction is not self-evident from evolutionary point of view. However, sex is also costly. The cost of producing males is high. Males are a biological waste because they do not lay eggs." It's a funny statement, isn't it? Because we don't produce eggs, we're a waste, biological waste. Petunias. These have a very special design. I want to show you what happened there. Plants have no brains, of course, and they have limited mobility. They stay where they were grown. So yet they have mechanism to thrive in place. One mechanism involves the prevention of inbreeding. So they prevent to inbreed themselves, okay? Because they have both genetic gametes, male pollen and female ova. So what happened here? They have all right. So as we know, inbreeding limits diversification and leads to genetic decay, as I just explained. So self-fertilization would create all associated problems with inbreeding for a plant species. So petunias, there's a good example. So how do they do it? The stigma contain a toxin, okay? And that stop pollen growth. So pollen, in turn, has a team of genes that produce antidotes to all toxin except for the toxin produced by the self-stigma. So if the flower tries to reproduce by itself, there's a toxin that doesn't allow that to happen. Okay? That is the way it works. Again, I'm going to have to explain to you about mitochondrial DNA, which I explained yesterday, but it's very important for the next topic I have to cover, for migrations. So let me ask you something. Who wasn't here yesterday? Although, just you? You weren't here, this was in the morning. No, you were here. I remember you standing at the door. No, in the morning. In the morning. Everyone was here. So I go just through very, very quickly, if you didn't pick the ideas. Remember, we have a cell, and we have a nucleus with all the 23 chromosomes, and we have the mitochondria, where mitochondria sits the mitochondrial DNA, which is like that in circles. Okay, and that mitochondrial DNA comes only from the mother, just the mother. But the nucleus DNA, which is in the nucleus, comes from mother and father, which joins together. So that special mitochondrial DNA that comes from only mothers is because mothers transmit that through the, remember, the ovule, and only women have ovule. And that ovule never mix with anything else. It's always keeps the same, from mother to daughter to granddaughter and so on. So there's no mix, no alteration, no variation. So again, mitochondria with a special DNA, and this was discovered that the mitochondrial DNA that is inherited from the mother is the same in all humanity. We share, all of us, we share the same mitochondrial DNA with little specks, which are little mutations that happen during time. So we can expect that we may have some little differences, but not in the structural thing, but only in very little details here or there, which are only the result of mutations. Okay? But that does not change the object that we have a common mother for all humanity. That comes from Africa. I showed you this yesterday. And again, because of the mutations rate is very high, 20 times faster than was thought initially, a research team called the Parsons team determined that it's consistent with 6,500 years. Okay? So that was the mitochondrial DNA. This is Dr. Robert Carter. He's a geneticist, and he says that evolution expected that human beings descended from many women. But when only one woman was found, it was explained with a bottleneck. And Genesis clearly says that humanity had a bottleneck, which is the flood, where only 8 individuals survived. And the parallel with the Bible is obvious. Yes, we had a bottleneck, but the bottleneck wasn't in Africa. The bottleneck was there in the ark, because we had only 8 living humans that remain. Wikipedia tells us this. Mitochondrial Eve was the most recent woman from whom all living humans today descend. Unlike her biblical namesake, she was not the only living human female of her time. However, her female contemporaries failed to produce a direct and broken female line to any living woman in the present day, which is nothing. I mean, they're saying nothing with that. It's just a statement for saving their own face. But the point is that we, all humans, descend from just one woman. And let me tell you, Wikipedia is absolutely evolutionist. So Adam called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all nations. Genesis 3:20. And the Y chromosome, same thing. I'm going to go very quick. 23 pair of chromosomes. The last one is the sex, 23. And XY is a male, and XX is a woman. And the Adam Y chromosome, which is called now, is this, smaller than the female X chromosome. And the bottleneck comes in this way. So we have a bottle full of colors. Before the flood comes the flood, and the genetic information is very limited. All right? And that's what we can see today. Now, this bottleneck, genetically speaking, most of genetic information before the flood was lost. So surprisingly, people who lived just after the flood probably had much greater differences in appearance than they do now. And we can find, for instance, in humans, 3 types of humans today that live. Some of them don't live anymore, which are the Neanderthals, the Homo erectus, and the Homo sapiens, which we are today. All of them, absolutely all of them, were descendants of Noah. Okay? So all of them were descendants of Noah. Nothing to do with monkeys here. This is descendants from Noah. And today, many humans living today have genes that only come from Neanderthals. They know because they have the bones of Neanderthals and they have the DNA that some traits they have, they're still in human being living today. So that confirms that they were absolutely humans. If they reproduce with other humans and Homo sapiens, they are humans. This is a Neanderthal. The only difference is the head. They have a bigger head. Our head today, the cavity for brain, is 1,350 cc's, cubic centimeters. 1,350. And these Neanderthals have had 1,630. They were much bigger, probably more intelligent. And this is the Homo erectus, which were smaller, only about 1,000 cubic centimeters. Okay? So you can see the difference. This is variation of humans, nothing else. And this is the bones. This is a complete body of Neanderthal compared to the Homo sapiens. They were a little bit shorter, stronger, with a head, as I showed you before. And that's the difference. It's not a big deal. So let me make you a test now. How many Y chromosomes travel in the ark? Okay. Remember, the father has the same Y chromosome as the son, identical. So how many were there? Just one. You're right. Just one. And how many mitochondrial DNA travel in the ark? Oh, wait. Remember, I explained to you that there are little traces here and there, which makes because of mutations. So they are a little bit different. We can make a distinction among them. So we had the mother of the 3 sons of Noah, and we have the spouses, the wives of them. So yeah, there are 4. But how many of them were good for descendants? Did Noah's wife have more children? No. We have a Bible text, Genesis 9:19. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. So only of them. So she didn't have any other daughters to put the mitochondrial DNA into work again. So at the end, how many mitochondrial DNA did we have in the ark that were to be copied to the future? 3. Remember, the wife of Noah didn't have any daughters. And if you don't have daughters, stops there. So how many? 3. Yeah, that's it. Only 3. Is this adjusted to the evidence? Absolutely. Look at this. Today, the lineages of the mitochondrial DNA are 3. M, N, and R, which are spread around the world. And those are the mitochondrial DNA from the daughters-in-law of Noah. Isn't this fantastic? That you can read today in genetics what the Bible tells us. So from there, they move across the world, to Africa, to Europe, to Asia, and to Australia, and to America through the Bering Strait. So with so many generations past, have we lost the track of our origin? No. Because there are 2 markers that allow us to track down our origin. Exactly, mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome. Those are the 2 markers that we can look at and know where we come from. So Genesis 10:32 tells us these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. 70 families. And also, God, the Trinity was talking, come, let us, the Trinity, go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth. Because they didn't want to go and do what they were told, to move around the world, they were put this situation of speaking different languages. And they have to do it. Now, Babel's separation, which happened there, is very important to understand after the Tower of Babel, that they divided by paternal lineages. So it wasn't like God said in that place, okay, you speak Chinese, you speak English, you speak Spanish, you speak German, you speak... So they make a mix of languages and obviously have to join together if they speak the same language. No, that wasn't the situation. It was by paternal lineages. So a full family from a father spoke one language, and so on and so on. So they move geographically to other zones with the chromosome Y as a pattern. Okay? And that's been confirmed today because of the geographical identity that places have because of the chromosome Y identity. Okay? So this picture is quite clear. Noah, his 3 sons and daughters-in-law, all the offsprings, and then separation in the tower, and they produce races. That's the very point, that we have different races. Why? This is because different groups of people, family lineages, have different features in their faces, in their bodies, and when you isolate a group, the only thing that happens is that features that group has are enhanced. Okay? So that's exactly what happened. Those which were more white just turned whiter, and those which were more brown turned browner, and same as yellow skin, whatever. So that's what happened. That's why races were created, because of separation and isolation because of language. I don't know if you have experienced this situation of going to a country where you don't understand a word. Say China. You get to China. Would you know how to fit yourself? And to ask for something to eat? Obviously not. You have to look for someone similar to you. So you can talk to him and probably ask him how you say this or that. That's natural to gather together when you have a common language. So today, this is evolutionist. There are world migrations drawn here in the world map, and you can see how it moves to Africa, to Asia, to Australia, and to all the Americas. And they have different letters. Why different letters? Because the scientists have been able to trace down geographically how the mutations, little mutations, have come into the DNA, in the mitochondrial DNA and in the chromosome Y. And they know that in this area, a certain mutation happened and stay there. And if they moved on, they add another one. So that's why they changed letters. And they have, all kind of letters there. Today, this is commercial, okay? There's a system called Family Tree DNA, which is absolutely commercial, and is an invitation to discover your past. And you have to order your test and pay, of course. So it's about $350 to get to have a knowledge of where you're coming from. If you come from the Jews, from the Arabs, from Africa, if you come from Europe, if you come from whatever, you will know because of this test. And what this test discover is where your Y chromosome and your mitochondrial DNA has whatever mutations in it that indicates where you come from. Okay, I pay for this. And let me show you mine. I pay for this type of thing, which is very simple, by the way. To take your DNA, you don't need to take a blood sample or anything like that. You just use a little cotton in your cheek, inside your cheek, put that in a test tube, and send it back to the lab. And they will determine your DNA fully. And, okay, my result was I belong to the group R1B1A2, which comes from the area of Babel, and then move into Europe. One is R1B to Southern Europe, R1A to Northern Europe. And these are my 3,100 perfect matches in the world for my Y chromosome. Okay, you can see here a lot of people, and a lot of people in America, because they move into America. And some others spread across the world. And let me tell you that surnames are not relevant, because surnames were only assigned to people about the 15th century because of taxation reasons. They have to identify people by surname so they could charge taxes. Okay, so people used to call by the city they live, by the trade they had, and by just a family name, but different to what son of James, son of someone. And this is, again, the haplogroup RB1 is mostly in this area, the dark one. Okay, where is that? North of Spain, France, Holland, Dutch, and England, and Scotland, and Ireland. That's mainly where they are concentrated, the R1B. So most likely my parents or grandparents came from here, from northern Spain, I think. And the mitochondrial DNA, also, this is a map for it. You can see a lot of lines, but one of them is K. And I got the haplogroup K for mitochondrial DNA. My mother had the group K. And where it's coming from the Mediterranean. And exactly that's what happened with my mother. My mother was raised and born here in Catalonia in Barcelona, Spain. So it's just from there. You see, so exactly what I was expecting. There are a lot of links between Australia and India, because Aborigines has been determined that they came from India in the migration. And that's only about 4,000 to 5,000 years ago not 40,000 years ago as it used to be said. It's only 4,000 years ago. Lastly, I want to show you about the human population. Human population today follows a very, very nice pattern. It is not just random. Let me show you something. First of all, that a human population fits perfectly with a standard model of growth using very conservative parameters. If we start with 6 people and double it, the population every 150 years, we will reach today's human population. And if you ask why there's so little population in this world, and the reason is one, because the world is young. We're not more than 4,350 years since that happened, Noah's time. 4,350 years since that time. So if we start there with the arc, we double, we get to the 7.4 billion people we have today in the world. So it's perfectly well. And the world population, in accordance with the World Book Encyclopedia, tell us the world population grows at the rate of 1.8 per annum. Okay? So the 3 sons of Noah require only 0.5% growth to get to the 7.4 billion that today in those 4,350 years. This is the growth then. And just in the 1800s, we got to the first billion people in the world. Before that was very little population. So 1800, first billion. Second billion came about 1900. And then from then on, started growing very quickly. So third billion, fourth billion, fifth billion, sixth billion in a very short time. And you see, this is like a wall that of the population growth. And we can understand a little bit better about fame, about all these revelation pronostics that tell us that there will be a lot of fame at that time because of a lot of people around. And today, this is another interesting thing. People living today is 1/3 of humans ever born in the world. 1/3 of humans are living. 2/3 are dead, but 1/3 is still living because of this curve. So world population growth formula, this is the one, and was used to do a lot of calculations. For instance, in the population at the flood, which we lived before the flood and they die at the flood, 235 million people. A lot of people, if you think about it. And a lot of generation passed. Population at Babel, 1,000 people. At Abraham's time, 2.8 million. At Jesus' time, 200 million. The current population today, 7,400 million. Population born from Adam and Eve till today, 20 billion. And if humanity had 1 million years, and not only 4,350 years, it would be 3,000 billions, over 28,600 generations. The other question that normally arises is how could lifespan drop so dramatically after the flood? People used to live 900 years, 969 years like Methuselah, and all of them have that kind of range of age, but suddenly drop into today's ages. Why is that? Well, there's a very good explanation. This is a curve which is called a biological decay curve. This is mathematical, it's not random. This is a curve known absolutely well by biological decay, okay? And has a formula like that. And it's just the accumulation of mutation. This is a big article from Dr. John Sanford explaining this. So, summary for today. All human races come from 2 individuals, and only some few thousand years ago. And those are, of course, Adam and Eve. There is evidence of a catastrophic reduction in human population, which is called the bottleneck by evolutionist geneticists. Some years ago, which is the universal flood. There's an evidence of great dispersal of human mankind, and over all the world, after these seen as so-called races, which was produced by the Tower of Babel. Evolutionist scientists have come to many conclusions that fits perfectly well with the biblical story. In fact, modern genetics is giving a huge support to the biblical story. Psalms 92, 5-6, I just finished with this. O Lord, how great are your works. Your thoughts are very deep. A senseless man does not know, nor thus a fool understand this. God bless you.